Hello, Bart. Welcome to our Kite Perspective today.
Hi, Anita. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Yes, it's fantastic to have you here. So, for everyone who doesn't know Bart, Bart and I have been working together now with Kite since I'd say 7 months. But the relationship goes back to before we kicked off Kite. But Bart, I don't want to steal your thunder. Maybe you'd like to introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So my name is Mark Kuiper. I essentially look after the CRM program of work at Murdoch University. We've been probably in the third year of the CRM program at the moment. And yeah, based in Perth, 39 degrees forecast today. So nice to be in this part of the world today.
Very good. Unless Victoria. Actually, Melbourne is not too bad today either after months of ongoing rain and coldness. So hopefully it stays a little bit warm over the next days. So today's topic is the future of higher education is personal and how Murdoch University is breaking down data silos across the student life cycle journey. Fascinating topic. We love working with higher education universities and higher education institutes because of the complexity involved and of the challenging nature of it. Because there's really two angles to this debate, right? On the one side, we have the student experiences and the student expectations, which is really an ongoing changing shift, specifically post-COVID, right? Where everyone's been, joining the courses online, international students dropped off, the whole engagement moved from on campus to everything digitally. But also I think the generic digitalization of experiences is also, again, I guess, driving the expectations of students as well, of how you communicate with them, through which channels, how personalized, real time, and so what. And, this across the student life cycle journey is a really, really complex thing to achieve. But on the other side, Bart, what's the pressure on universities in that situation?
Oh, I think there's always challenges in terms of working within budgetary constraints and leveraging the technology stacks that universities have to maximize the recruitment process and optimize and automate where we can. And for us, the key focus as well as recruitment currently is obviously on student retention as well. So,
yeah, student retention. Yeah, very, very interesting. So I want to kick off to say, okay, well, the student life cycle, right, is very complex with many data points across the entire student journey. So if you kick it off from the end to end, right, it starts with, a lot of students might do their online research or they work with an agent. They might go and check out what's happening at a university and follow their social channels. They may want to have to apply for financial assistance or discuss school with administration representatives, apply online, track applications. So there's, even before, a student is actually starting their studies at the universities, if you look at, I'm not going to walk through all those points now, but you're already kind of halfway through the student experience journey because there's so much happening right up front. Yeah. And then I guess the challenge is not only that, but it's also then matching the student throughout their time with the university. And then after the fact, the whole alumni management. So it's really the, I guess that 360 student view, right? Where you start from recruitment, the student management, the financial support, but also the student success, because, as a university, you want to make sure students are actually, they don't only register, but actually go to their classes and follow through to then creating, get that support and support community with alumni and business to business engagement. Yeah. So with that stuff specifically, what's happening in Murdoch? Like, how do you manage that complex setup?
yeah, sure. So at Murdoch University, we have 3 core CRM platforms that you can see on the slide in front of you at the moment. So we have the Salesforce email marketing platform, Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Our core enterprise CRM platform is Oracle Service Cloud. And we also use a platform called IMIS, which is used by our Office of Advancement for donor relationship management, fundraising, and also alumni relationship management. And what we've been working on over the last 3 years is a strategy of increasing the level of integration between these three platforms, using the Azure integration platform to form what we are terming our CRM ecosystem. And you can see there that we're also integrating some of our other core platforms at the university as well. Callista, our core student management system, which is our system of record for applicants, applications, student and alumni information. And we're also leveraging the Azure Analytics platform as well to provide insights and patterns to generate opportunities for optimization and automation.
Yeah, so super interesting. So it's really, you know, as we see, I guess, already quite a lot of different systems where, you know, different things are being managed, and every system, I'm sure, has its own objective to, you know, bring this all together to create, I guess, that single student view is quite a big undertaking. But, you know, how, I guess a lot of the pressure at the moment in universities is really that acquisition to conversion funnel, right? It's like that recruitment engine which drives, I guess, the monetary rewards and the revenue into university. Specifically, what does Murdoch University, I guess the question is, what's the roadmap and how do you solve the complex scenario?
Yeah, so essentially from our recruitment perspective, the work we've been doing, so the work we've been doing pre-COVID was essentially, from a recruitment perspective, was very tactical in nature, where we were tackling some obvious low-hanging fruit in terms of problems. But when we reconvened after the first period of COVID and working from home, the steering committee met and we reprioritized our roadmap to focus on two key areas: recruitment and retention. Now, from a recruitment perspective, what we immediately started to look at was the definition of a high-level target state, because that's not something that we had defined previously. So I think that's key, to have that roadmap to make sure that you're embarking on the right journey. So we had quite a large workshop with senior leadership where we worked through essentially a bit of a recap of some of the current challenges that we had at the university at the time. Essentially, very, very siloed landscape with duplication of capability and activity across different platforms. So, for example, marketing would be capturing domestic leads into Salesforce and marketing to those leads, but without clear visibility of conversion to applicants. And at the same time, we had our contact center capturing leads and prospects through inbound inquiries into Oracle Service Cloud, but not sharing that information about those leads and prospects with marketing. So again, big loss of opportunity from a marketing perspective there. So we defined a target state through a series of, I guess, recommendations and key principles. And last year in 2021, we started that journey to realize this target state with our integration between Callista and Oracle Service Cloud. So Callista is our core student management system. It's where all the applications, admissions, and enrollments teams work. There isn't a pipeline defined per se, but there's a logical pipeline there. And we developed integration between Callista and Oracle Service Cloud so that we now have a real-time view of applicants moving through the post-application stages of the recruitment pipeline in Oracle Service Cloud. So if you now open up a contact record in Service Cloud, we have a pipeline banner on the contact workspace, and you can immediately see what stage that particular applicant is at. This year, the focus has shifted more to top of funnel, so lead capture and lead nurture activity. And we're doing a lot of work at the moment on all of our different lead sources. For example, domestic engagement events and Eventbrite, lead capture forms on the website, making sure that we capture all of those leads and prospects into a single recruitment pipeline, which we've defined in Oracle Service Cloud. The other thing that we're focused on very heavily is capturing opt-in permission to market. Now, that's not something that we traditionally had been doing for inquiries coming in, but we're now capturing opt-in permission. And with any contacts that we have an email address and opt-in permission to market, we're then developing integration now between Service Cloud and Salesforce to make sure that we can make all of those leads and prospects available to the marketing team to market to them.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. And, it's really, I jumped that slide very quickly before, but this one, right, it really illustrates, I guess, the challenge to get this together from a solution architecture point of view, because, if you look at the student, right, it's like, have no idea where to start, not sure about which location, what do other people say, what actually shall I study? And then you have sort of all the different channels where a student can do research, right? So they can actually rock up at the university at your open day, which, the last years was online, but also can be on campus. There's all these social influences from families, friends, word of mouth, other students, social media platforms. Then there's all the advisors and the agents specifically for overseas students, which are highly influential, and even schools, which may have recommendations, or influence the students' decision of which university or which country they want to go to. And then, of course, as a student, you also would do your own research as well. So highly complex scenario to say, okay, right, now I'm the student, I want to go apply, I'm keying in all my details, but then I may have questions along the application process, or I have some documents missing, then I have, I need to call the university and see where's my application at, am I approved, am I rejected? So there's a lot of interaction points, And in the end, I think, I'm not sure which university this was now, but in a conversation with a Australian university we spoke, it was about out of 4 students which actually got granted the application to success, only 1 student successfully actually continued off with the studies. So a huge effort for a university to manage this end-to-end process, right? Manage thousands of applications to then grant 4 successful applications with only 1 successful student actually going ahead. So quite a big complex scenario in an environment where cost saving is absolutely important, and the personalized omni-channel real-time engagement with your applicant is also critical.
Absolutely. And I think as well, being able to sort of create that 360-degree view of the customer as they move through that whole process is really challenging, especially when we take into account the different platforms that we use to capture these interactions and touch points as well. So I guess that's where some of the integration that we're now developing is starting to bridge some of those gaps so that we can maintain that golden record of the customer.
Yeah, and then I'd also want to drill in a bit here with the recruitment nudges, right? So I think automation in this process and working smarter and not harder to leverage the data we have and automate engagement, I think is really key. Would you like to share a little bit about how Murdoch University, what are you guys doing at the moment? What's working well? What isn't working well? Any lessons learned on the way?
Sure. So from a recruitment perspective, we took a look at, I guess, from a nudge perspective. So recruitment nudges, that's the term we're using for the types of nudge that we use to essentially encourage applicants through the pipeline, through the recruitment pipeline. From a pre-application perspective, a lot of that is around marketing, email marketing. That's a big focus for us. So we have, again, using that Salesforce platform for those nurture emails to nurture leads and prospects to the point of application. We are, through the integration we're developing, those emails and using a product within Salesforce called Journey Builder are automated, and we set up 3-touch nurture journeys to encourage leads and prospects to apply. Once a student applies to the university, to nudge them through the post-application stages, that's what we are terming our conversion emails. And what we decided to do here was to look at opportunities to automate some of those emails that go out to applicants to essentially nudge them through that process. And those emails come out of Oracle Service Cloud. So I might ask you just to jump to the next slide, Anita.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I have a question. The question I have is around, I guess, the test and learn, right? So with all those nudges, I guess, is Murdoch University looking at actual results and, where there's maybe breakdowns in the process, and then go back to the business to look at, okay, well, there is a really, in the funnel, most students drop out at this step. What's going on?
Yes, absolutely. So we work closely with the admissions teams and the enrollments teams to identify, I guess, opportunities for automation and for nudges. Also to identify potential drop-off points. And for example, recently we identified a need to focus on a nudge in the area or the stages between offer made and offer accepted to encourage students to accept their offers. So that's the first recruitment nudge that we focused on. As we're currently focusing on a number of different nudges in the pipeline that will work in the focus on the admission space. But following on from that, we'll keep moving down the pipeline. And once we get into the enrollments territory, which is in that prepare to study phase of the recruitment pipeline, there's a lot of scope for automation there, because the enrollments team spend a lot of time manually pulling lists out of Callista and importing lists into Service Cloud to do bulk emails essentially around enrollment. So there's a huge amount of scope for more nudges to be developed in the future using the pattern that we've got. And we should also, I should also mention that the first nudge that we actually developed was a retention nudge. So we're also doing a lot of work with this nudge pattern in the retention workspace as well.
Yeah, amazing. And one more question. I hope you don't mind me firing off all those questions. Call center, so with the call center volumes, right, I'm assuming that, if you're dealing with a high number of interested students, equally high number of students who actually start the application process or go through that application process, I'm assuming there's a lot of, questions, queries coming in terms of, because students get stuck somewhere or they have a question or they want to change something. What's Murdoch University's approach in, I guess, diverting all these inbound calls and being proactive about giving applicants the information they need so they don't even need to call?
Yeah, sure. So I guess a couple of things there from an inquiry perspective, inquiry management. The contact center, as I mentioned, they use Oracle Service Cloud. So when it comes to fresh inquiries coming in from leads and prospects, they will either find a contact already exists in the platform, or they would create a new contact and then aim to resolve that inquiry through the instant that gets generated. We've got multiple channels, phone, web chat, a few different online forms as well. Undergrad, postgrad sign-up form. We have an ask a question form. Those forms are all being developed in Oracle OPA. And again, they'll be captured directly into Oracle Service Cloud. For post-application inquiries, what will happen is that through the integration with Callista and Service Cloud, all of our applicants will be in Service Cloud. And if an inquiry comes in, the agent will be able to open up the contact workspace, open up the contact record. And because we've got a pipeline banner, which now shows the exact pipeline stage that applicant is at, they can have a much more tailored and personalized conversation in resolving that inquiry. And also what we've done is we have developed a custom recruitment schema within Oracle Service Cloud as well. So as well as the pipeline stage that the contact is in, we've got quite rich information in Service Cloud about the application that the course they've applied for, and the application information, any information that's outstanding. So again, that allows the contact center team to be much more, tailored in their conversation with the inquiry as it comes in.
Yeah, I love it. That's really awesome. So
this slide essentially just gives a very sort of high level view of the nudge pattern that we use. As I mentioned, we started off with a nudge in the retention space last year, and this year, when we were looking at opportunities to automate those post-application conversion emails to nudge people through the recruitment pipeline, we quite quickly identified that the nudge pattern would be a good solution for this as well. So what you can see on the left of the screen there is that we have Callista. It's our student management system. That's our system of record for applicant and application information, as well as students and alumni. And we take a nightly feed from Callista into the analytics platform, which is in the Azure stack. And within the analytics platform, then what we do, the first nudge from a recruitment perspective that we wanted to implement was a nudge for unconditional offer holders. So what the analytics platform does is it monitors for any new offers that have gone out to applicants, and it tracks the response to those offers. And if by day 5, the student hasn't responded to the offer, that's when the analytics platform will trigger a nudge. Now, the nudge itself is sent through the integration platform, which also sits within Azure, and essentially then gets pushed into Oracle Service Cloud. And that nudge will create an instant against the student record in Oracle Service Cloud, and that will be used as the vehicle to generate a nudge email out to the applicant. And the email that comes out is essentially a call to action to the applicant to respond to the offer. And there is a link in the email that will take the applicant to the online response system. And once they've essentially logged into the online response system, they can then accept, reject, or defer their offer. So if after day 8, so a further 3 days, they still haven't responded, that's when the outbound team that we're developing at Murdoch University would then come into play, and they would potentially then have a manual touch point with that applicant through a phone call or through an SMS, again, just following up to encourage that response. We're also in the process now of, we've got a feedback loop integration from Service Cloud coming back through up into the analytics platform. And we're now just finishing development of our first executive dashboard in the analytics platform. It's a Power BI dashboard that allows us to get stats on the nudges and also to gauge the effectiveness of the nudges. And that's when we can start to get some insights into other things that we might want to do. For example, automate an SMS 3 days after the nudge goes out. So we're just getting into that sort of territory now, where we're starting to see data coming through for the last few months, and that will inform decisions about how we move forward.
Yeah, I love it. So it's really, already omni-channel, right? It's behavioral triggered, comms, omni-channel, personalized, and also with the deep analytics running, I guess, across all those multiple touch points to see what's working, what's not working, where the friction points, and where to really pick up the re-engagement. What about, I guess, students who successfully applied and they're going to, log in or be on campus in their sessions? Is there any system where you see when students actually don't attend their courses, and how is this being managed on your side?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, in addition to a lot of opportunity for nudges in the recruitment space, our first nudge was actually in the retention space. That was last year.
Yeah.
So what we're doing with that particular nudge, it's called a limited engagement nudge, and we're taking information into the analytics platform from Callista, but also from the student management system, which is the LMS. And what the analytics platform is doing is it's monitoring for instances where a current student hasn't logged into the learning management system for 7 consecutive days. If that happens on day 7, there's a nudge that gets generated, again, using the same pattern into Oracle Service Cloud, and we send an automated email out to the student, essentially encouraging them to log into the LMS. If on day 14 that student still hasn't logged into the LMS, what we call a level 2 nudge is generated. And what will happen then is the student will get another nudge email, but at the same time, we create a second instant in Oracle Service Cloud. And that instant is then assigned to the student success queue. So the student success team will then monitor that queue, and then that allows them to proactively follow up with the student. So on day 14. We're now expanding out other recruitment nudges as well. So we're working on a progression nudge at the moment, where we're tracking how a student's, tracking within Callista and with regards to units being completed and assignments being completed. And again, using the analytics platform to essentially trigger nudges when students potentially need some sort of intervention to keep them on track from a progression point of view.
Yeah, awesome. I love it.
And the nice thing about, I guess, the nudge pattern that we've developed is that from an integration perspective and from a Service Cloud perspective, we're getting a huge amount of reuse based on this pattern. Really, every time we need a new nudge, it's the analytics team that have to then, build the smarts to create the nudge in the first place. But because 95% of what we've built in the integration and the Oracle Service Cloud platforms is being reused, we can very quickly turn these nudges around now. So it's a lot of opportunity there.
Excellent. That's great. We as Quite Perspective, we've been working with quite a lot of universities as people, and now also with Quite. But, over the years, we've collected, I guess, the higher education nudge, best practice across the attract, engage, nurture, and activate. So there's some ideas on there. I know there's quite a lot of people from the higher education sector dialed in and following this session today. So here's some sort of inspiration of what can be done to really nudge your prospect along and get them, to successfully complete the application and make sure that, they're actually also kicking off their studies once they're successfully applied. there's lots to consider. And it's definitely a very, one of the most complicated industries, I'd say, to manage, I guess, the one-on-one engagement and create the 360 view. But in a nutshell, Bart, right, what are sort of your key recommendations to other universities who embarked the journey or are right in the middle of it?
Yeah, I think from my experience over the last 3 years at Murdoch, I think number one, it's key to have a roadmap. It's really critical to understand what your target state looks like, to make sure that as you incrementally move towards reaching that target state, you're on the right track. I think at the same time, you need to be agile and be prepared to react to emerging issues as well. For example, in the case of Murdoch University, this year, at the beginning of the year, we didn't have recruitment nudges on our roadmap. Halfway through the year, we identified a need to explore opportunities in that area, and so we've had to react to that. So there are certain things on our roadmap which we didn't get to this year, which are now candidates for continuation next year. I think as well, take an agile approach where possible, and incrementally iterate and improve and enhance as we go forward. An example that I can give you just now is that we recently redeveloped our Ask a Question form on Oracle OPA. We're now going through a second iteration of that form to improve the user experience and to tackle some drop-off rates that we've got there. So again, I think just incrementally iterate and review and improve, continuously improve. And I think just keep working towards providing the technical capabilities to build up that 360-degree view of the customer, which is so challenging when we've got so many different platforms that are used to master data and to capture interactions and touch points. If we can find a way to amalgamate that together to build that 360-degree view, that just culminates in a much better customer experience at the end of the day, and a staff experience as well.
Yeah, certainly. And I also feel like there's always those pressures between the tactical, immediate, quick wins, but then the longer term strategy and vision, right? It's like what's the 4 or 5 year plan from a solution architecture point of view, but what are the immediate quick fixes we need to get in with what we've got in order to, drive the numbers and the adoption and minimize cost and do all the things, higher education organizations need to do. A constant pressure field.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's constantly being aware of priorities and shifting priorities from a business perspective, and pulling the right teams together to solve those problems. So what we're doing next year, we will still have a roadmap, and we're still executing on that roadmap, but we will take a slightly different approach to how we actually tackle work. So there's much more of a focus on identifying, urgent, critical business needs and prioritizing those and pulling the correct teams together to solve those problems, while we still have this cadence towards executing on our roadmap. So.
Yeah, I love that. There's agile tribes where, you assemble the right skill set and the right talent to solve business problems. Yeah. Absolutely exciting. Well, that 30 minutes went way too fast. We could be talking on so much longer about all these exciting things you guys do. But I wanted to say thank you, Bart, so much for taking the time to share your insights, lessons learned, and how Murdoch University is addressing some of those industry challenges. It was really great hosting you today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, you have a very good rest of your day. There haven't been any audience questions in, so if anyone from the audience has a question now or even after the event, please just leave a comment on the LinkedIn channel or send myself, a comment. We're happy to address this anytime after the session as well. And with that, I wish everyone a lovely day. Thank you, Bart.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.